guantes, guantes. Mira, papu, lo que se hace. Mira, parkour. Ahora yo, papu, mira, salta pájaro. Ay, agüita sabrosona.
Chapter 7. A shared lunch Tuesday, April 7th, 1992, 12 p.m., 2:30 p.m. The lunch bell resonated through classroom 2, like a starting pistol. 12 chimes. Noon. The sound was still vibrating in the air when Mamoru rose from his desk. The movement was fluid, almost lazy, as if the time around him flowed at a different rhythm. His figure unfolded upward, reaching that height that continued to be disconcerting to everyone. 6 feet 1 inch of long bones, defined muscles beneath the white shirt of his uniform, and a presence that filled the space without asking permission. Several girls in the class sighed. It wasn't a rehearsed collective sigh. It was a spontaneous chorus of contained exhalations, as if the mirror-sided Mamoru standing had stolen their breath. One of them, Yumiko, from the middle row, whispered to her friend Ekni without taking our eyes off him. "Have you seen? He's even taller standing up. And those shoulders, they look like an Olympic swimmer's." Ekni nodded, her cheeks slightly flushed. "And that white hair, how can it shine like that? It makes you want to touch it." Mamoru, unaware of the small cataclysm he was causing, slung his backpack over his shoulder and walked toward the door. His steps were long, but not arrogant. They simply covered more ground than others. As he passed the girls at the back, Usagi, Ami, Rei, and Mikoto, his heterochromatic eyes rested on them for an instant. A slight nod. A silent invitation. The 4 of them sprang up like a spring and followed him. The hallway was crowded with students heading to the cafeteria, to their classrooms with their bento boxes, or to their favorite corners. The bustle was constant, a mixture of laughter, conversations, and the shuffling of slippers on the linoleum floor. But as Mamoru advanced, the bustle quieted. It didn't become absolute silence, but rather a lower, more contained murmur. Heads turned. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. A group of first-year girls, loaded down with textbooks and pencil cases, froze at the sight of him. One of them, small with braids, became so mesmerized that she didn't see the step in the hallway. She tripped. Her books flew through the air and scattered across the floor with a crash of pages and covers. Her friend stifled an exclamation. Mamoru, without altering his pace, stopped. He crouched down with a fluidity surprising for someone of his height and began to pick up the books. His long, elegant fingers carefully stacked the volumes. "Be careful." His voice, velvety and deep, resonated in the sudden silence of the hallway. It wasn't a scolding. It was a soft, almost warm, warning. The braided girl, her face the color of a ripe tomato, could only nod mutely, her eyes like saucers. Mamoru handed her the books. She took them with trembling hands. He gave her a slight bow of his head and continued on his way. Behind him, the girl's friends burst into stifled whispers. "Oh my God! He's so handsome. And so tall. Did you see his eyes? One pink and one green. And so polite." The 4 girls, walking behind him, exchanged glances. They were getting used to this. Usagi felt a pang of pride that swelled her chest. "He's walking with us. He's a friend." The possessive tasted sweet in her mind. At the bend in the hallway, they ran into Naru, Osaka, and Kuryomino. They were holding hands. Naru was radiant, with a smile that lit up her whole face. Minho, with his eternal thick glasses and his expression of a perpetual know-it-all, walked beside her with a barely concealed air of triumph. Seeing Mamoru, Naru caught her breath. "Oh, Usagi," she whispered, grabbing her friend's arm. "It's him. The new boy. He's even more handsome up close. How can you stand next to him without fainting? He's like a prince from a fairy tale." Usagi blushed to the roots of her buns. "He's not that big a deal, Naru. He's just a classmate. Well, a friend." Minho, for his part, adjusted his glasses with a pedantic gesture and looked Mamoru up and down. The height difference was so evident it was almost comical. "Chiba-kun, I've been doing some research. Is it true you're 6 feet 1 inch tall?" That represents a standard deviation of 2.3 from the national average for 14-year-old males. Statistically speaking, you're an anomaly. Mamoru looked at him with a raised eyebrow. The one over his green eye. The left one, the pink one, remained neutral, but in the right one a spark of amusement shone. I suppose so, Minno-kun. Although I'd never stopped to calculate the standard deviation of my height. Minno felt strangely small. It wasn't just the physical difference. It was the way Mamoru looked at him. Without contempt, without mockery. Simply, as if Minno were a curious but harmless specimen. Naru tugged his hand. Let's go, Minno. Don't bother Chiba-kun. I'm sure he has things to do. Minno let himself be dragged along, not before casting one last look of wounded pride at Mamoru's back. Naru, on the contrary, turned to give Usagi a conspiratorial smile and a thumbs up. He's super handsome. Make the most of it. She mouthed silently. Usagi waved her hands, shaking her head vehemently, but her silly smile gave her away. Red snorted. That guy is annoying. I don't know how Naru puts up with him. Makoto laughed, a warm smile on her face. But Naru seems happy. And Minno, deep down, is a good guy. He just talks a lot. Ami nodded, in her analytical tone. His ability to memorize data is remarkable. Although his social implication of said data leaves much to be desired. They continued walking. They crossed the backyard, leaving the bustle of the main building behind. They skirted the gymnasium, where a group of boys was playing an impromptu game of basketball. The sound of the ball bouncing on the ground and the shouts of encouragement faded as they entered the shrubbery. Mamoru parted the branches with an expert gesture and disappeared among them. The girls followed. The secret garden welcomed them with its green silence and its constant rain of pink petals. The ancient cherry tree was still there, like a benevolent guardian, spilling its ephemeral beauty over the stone table and the 6 chairs surrounding it. The midday sunlight filtered through the branches, creating a mosaic of glints and dappled shadows on the moss. The air smelled of damp earth, wildflowers, and something else. Something none of them could name, but all of them felt. Peace. Refuge. Home. They sat around the table. Mamoru took one of the stone chairs. The girls distributed themselves around him, without any premeditated arrangement, but forming an imperfect circle that included him. Makoto, her heart beating hard, opened her backpack. She took out the bento box she had prepared that morning with such care. She opened it. The aroma of freshly cooked rice, crumbled bonito, homemade mayonnaise, and crispy noi seaweed spread through the garden like a warm wave. Usagi moaned in anticipation. Mako-chan, that smells like glory. Makoto, her cheeks slightly flushed, took one of the onigiri. It was a perfect triangle, the rice shiny and the nori wrapping around it like a dark embrace. She held it out to Mamoru, who was sitting next to her. Here, Chiba-kun. I made too many this morning. They're bonito. I hope you like them. Her voice sounded more trembling than she would have liked. Mamoru looked at her. His heterochromatic eyes, under the dapple light of the cherry tree, looked like 2 liquid gems. The pink one shone with a warm, almost golden tone. The green one reminded her of moss under the water of a pond. He took the onigiri with both hands. His fingers brushed Makoto's. It was a very brief contact, barely a whisper of skin against skin. But Makoto felt a shiver that ran up her entire arm and settled in her chest. His skin was warm. Surprisingly warm for a spring day. Mamoru examined the onigiri attentively, as if it were a small work of art. He took a bite. He chewed slowly. His jaws moved in a slow, almost meditative rhythm. He closed his eyes for an instant. The girls held their breath. Makoto felt time stop. When Mamoru opened his eyes, they shone with a new light. He looked directly at Makoto. A smile, that beautiful smile that illuminated his entire face, curved his lips. Kino-san. His voice was a velvety whisper that only she could hear. This is incredible. The salt level is perfect. The rice is the right texture, loose but firm. And the filling, the bonito melts in your mouth. You're an artist. Makoto felt her heart might burst. It wasn't just the compliment. It was the way he looked at her while saying it. As if he truly saw the effort she had put into every grain of rice, every strand of bonito. As if he valued not only the result, but the process, the love, the dedication. As if he saw her. The real Makoto. The one who cooked to fill the silence of her empty apartment. The one who longed for someone to appreciate her art. It's nothing special, she stammered, looking away. It's just an enigiri. But her eyes shone with happiness. The other girls smiled, sharing her joy. Yusaji had already grabbed one of the enigiri and taken a huge bite. Mako-chan, this is heaven. The best enigiri in the world. Ami took one with her usual delicacy, observed it from all angles as if it were a laboratory specimen, and then took a small bite. Excellent, Mako-chan. The filling-to-rice ratio is mathematically perfect. Retta took one without saying anything, took a bite, and murmured, it's good. But she said it without her usual dry tone. There was even a hint of a smile on her lips. And she ate the whole thing in less than a minute. Mamoru, meanwhile, savored his with an almost ceremonial slowness. Each bite seemed like a meditation. Makoto couldn't take her eyes off his fingers, which held the enigiri with a delicacy that contrasted with his evident strength. Lunch continued in an atmosphere of warmth and camaraderie. They took out their respective bento boxes. Usage's, the one her mother had prepared, rice, octopus-shaped sausages, sweet omelette. Ami's, a light and balanced lunch, grilled chicken breast, steamed vegetables, an apple. Riz, a simple bento from the temple, rice with yumboshi, grilled fish, pickles. Mamoru's, his eternal simple sandwich and a solitary apple. Makoto looked at him. That sad sandwich. That apple that seemed to be crying out for company. She felt a pang of tenderness. He, who cooked desserts worthy of a chef, who made flins and macarons, ate a miserable sandwich for lunch. Because he was bad at savory cooking. Or perhaps because he had never had anyone to prepare a proper bento for him. Next time I'll make more onigiri, she promised herself silently. And croquettes. And tempura. And curry. So he doesn't have to eat that. Ami, who had been watching the interaction with her analytical mind, decided to make a move. She cleared her throat. Chiba-kun. Usagi told us you speak several languages. Which is your favorite? Mamoru looked at her, slightly surprised that he knew. Then, his eyes moved to Usagi, who had frozen with an enigiri halfway to her mouth. A small smile curved his lips. French. It has a special musicality. As if each sentence were a little song. Words slide over each other, like the water of a stream. Ami nodded, fascinated. I'd like to learn Latin. Because of medicine. Many medical terms come from Latin and Greek. Mamoru looked at her with genuine interest. His heterochromatic eye settled on her with an intensity that made her feel strangely visible. It's a fascinating language. Precise. Logical. Like you, Mizuno-san. Ami felt warmth rise to her cheeks. Do you think so? Yes. I do, he said, without looking away. If you want, I can lend you a book. I have several on medical etymology. I would love that, Chiba-kun. Thank you. Ami felt a warmth in her chest. He hadn't just offered her help. He had seen something in her. Something good. Something she herself sometimes doubted existed. He had called her precise and logical, and he had said it as a compliment. Not as a reproach. Not as a way of calling her cold or distant. As if those qualities were valuable. Retta, who had remained silent, chewing her enigiri, decided to speak. Her voice sounded softer than usual, almost hesitant. Chiba-kun. Usagi mentioned that you like roses. Any in particular? Mamoru became thoughtful. His heterochromatic eyes grew distant, as if looking at something only he could see. The silence stretched for a few seconds. Golden roses, he said at last. I don't know if they exist. But I see them in my dreams. A garden full of them. They shine with their own light. Retta felt a shiver run down her spine. The fire hadn't lit. The image she had seen in the flames was real. Or at least, real in Memoir's dreams. I've seen something similar too, she confessed in a whisper. In the sacred fire at the shrine. A golden rose. Memoir stared at her. His heterochromatic eyes locked onto hers with an intensity that left her breathless. Really, San? She nodded, unable to hold his gaze. A complicit silence formed between them. Something united them. Something ancient. Something neither of them understood, but both felt. Makoto, encouraged by the success of her enigiri and by Ryo's confession, dared to ask. Chiba-kun, you who play music, do you think cooking and playing an instrument are similar? Memoir reflected for a moment, taking another bite of his enigiri. Very much so. Both need rhythm. If you don't keep the rhythm, the dish burns or the melody falls apart. Both need precision. 1 extra gram of salt, 1 out of tune note, and everything is ruined. And both need a little soul. Without soul, food nourishes but doesn't move you. Music sounds, but doesn't reach you. Makoto smiled, feeling understood. That's what I think. When I cook, sometimes I feel like I'm composing something. That each ingredient is a note, and the final dish is a symphony. Memoir looked at her with admiration. You're an artist, Kino-san. In the kitchen and in life. Makoto blushed to the roots of her hair. No one had ever called her an artist before. Strong, yes. Strange, too. Even violent, at her old school. But artist, never. Usagi, who had been listening with her mouth full, decided to jump in. She swallowed her enigiri in one go, almost choking. Chiba-kun, I also dreamed about a garden and golden roses, she blurted, her cheeks full of rice. Last night. And there was a white-haired figure I couldn't reach. Memoir went very still. His sandwich froze halfway to his mouth. His heterochromatic eyes locked onto Usagi. Tosuke-san, I dreamed that too. Of a garden and golden roses. And a figure calling to me. But I couldn't see her face. They looked at each other. The world around them seemed to dissolve. The whisper of the wind, the falling petals, the breathing of the other girls, everything became a blurry background. Only the two of them existed. Their eyes. Usage's immense blue, locked onto Memoir's pink and green. Something passed between them. An invisible current. A silent recognition. What a coincidence, murmured Usagi in a small voice. Yes, said Memoir, with the same softness. What a coincidence. But their eyes said something else. Their eyes said that coincidences didn't exist. The moment broke when Usagi, nervous, grabbed another enigiri and took a huge bite. The other girls exchanged glances. Something had just happened. Something important. The conversation drifted to other topics. The girls talked among themselves, with Memoir as a participatory listener. Ami asked Makoto for the rice trick. Makoto explained about the camp seaweed. Retta told Usagi she should study more English if she didn't want to repeat the year. Usagi groaned and covered her face with her hands. Memoir watched them, a small smile on his lips. He liked watching them interact. He liked the way they cared for each other, even when they scolded each other. He liked being part of it. Of that small universe of laughter, confidences, and shared food. When lunch was over, when no trace of the enigiri remained, Memoir rummaged in his backpack. He took out a small fabric bag, navy blue, tied with a cord. He opened it. A sweet, citrusy aroma spread through the garden. It's nothing special, he said, with a modesty that wasn't feigned. But I wanted to share something too. Honey and lemon candies. He handed one to each of them. Small golden spheres, translucent, shining in the sunlight like edible gems. Usagi popped hers into her mouth immediately. The flavor exploded on her palate. Sweet, sour, refreshing. The honey coursed her throat. The lemon awakened her senses. Chiba-kun, she said, her eyes wide. You're a wizard. A kitchen wizard. You should open a pastry shop. Memoir laughed. That soft, tickling laugh that gave Usage a butterflies in her stomach. Just an amateur, Tosuke-no-san. But I'm glad you like it. The others tried the candies too. Ami analyzed the perfect balance between the sweetness of the honey and the acidity of the lemon. Red felt the taste reminded her of something, of summer afternoons at the shrine, when our grandfather gave her ginger and honey candies. Makoto closed her eyes, savoring, thinking about how she could incorporate that flavor into one of her desserts. They gathered the remains of lunch. Mamoru helped Makoto pack away her empty box. Their fingers brushed again. Makoto felt another shiver. "Thank you, Kino-san," he said, quietly, so only she could hear. "Your cooking is special. Like you." Makoto couldn't reply. She just nodded, with a radiant smile that lit up her whole face. They returned to the classroom. The walk back was the same as the way there. Glances, sighs, whispers. But this time, the girls walked closer to Mamoru. More confident. As if they'd belonged by his side. The afternoon classes passed in a haze of satisfaction. They were full. Content. In music class, the teacher, an older man with a gray mustache and a severe expression, asked for a volunteer to play something. A deathly silence fell. No one wanted to be first. Mamoru raised his hand. The teacher looked at him, surprised. "Go ahead, Chiba-kun. What are you going to play for us?" "Moonlight Sonata by Beethoven." He sat down at the classroom piano. It was an old instrument, somewhat out of tune, but decent. His long, elegant fingers rested on the yellowed ivory keys. The girls watched him. They already knew he played. Usage had told them. But knowing it was one thing, seeing it was quite another. His fingers began to move. The first chords of the Moonlight Sonata filled the classroom. They were low, deep, melancholic notes, dragging like mist over a lake at night. Then, the melody rose, soft and fluid, like a moonbeam filtering through the clouds. The music flooded everything. The classroom, the students, the teacher, all disappeared. Only he remained. Mamoru Chiba. His straight but relaxed back. His head slightly tilted toward the keyboard. His white hair shining under the light from the window like a silver halo. His fingers, gliding over the keys with hypnotic grace, caressing the ivory as if it were a lover's skin. Ami analyzed his technique. He has classical training. His fingering is impeccable. The pressure of his fingers, the use of the pedal, he's not an amateur. He's practiced for years. Alone. The image of a small child, alone in an empty penthouse, practicing scales over and over again, pierced her heart like a knife. Red felt the music reach her soul. It stirred something deep within her, something she kept buried under layers of pride and self-sufficiency. Beethoven's sad notes resonated with her own loneliness. She closed her eyes. She let herself go. Makoto, on the other hand, felt the music embrace her. It was warm, like a blanket on a winter's night. It reminded her of her mother, who used to hum old songs while cooking. A tear welled in her eye, but didn't fall. Usage watched him, entranced. She didn't analyze his technique. She didn't look for hidden meanings. She simply looked at him. At his hands. At his profile. At the way his body swayed slightly to the rhythm of the music. And she thought, with absolute certainty, that she had never seen anything so beautiful in her life. When the last note faded into the air, there was absolute silence. Then, spontaneous applause. The teacher, his eyes bright, praised him. "Excellent, Chiba-kun. You have exceptional talent. Don't stop playing." Mamoru nodded with a slight bow and returned to his seat. The girls clapped louder than anyone. He gave them a small smile. Just for them. The last hour passed in a haze. No one paid attention to the teacher. Everyone was waiting for the bell. And then, it rang. They gathered their things. They left together. At the school gate, the afternoon sun tinted the sky with shades of orange and pink. Mamoru stopped and looked at them. The four of them. "Thank you for today," he said, in his warm voice. "It was the best lunch I can remember." His heterochromatic eyes shone with a soft light. He turned and walked away down the street. His tall figure and white hair stood out against the setting sun. The girls watched him until he disappeared into the crowd. Around them, other students were also watching him. A girl with braids said to her friend, "Who's that boy? Is he new? He's super handsome. He looks like a model." Yusuf just smiled to herself. A small, warm, intimate smile. "He's our friend. He's Memo-chan. He's ours." The second date had ended, and 5 people, who were once strangers, now shared more than a secret garden. They shared trust. They shared laughter. They shared dreams. They shared the beginning of a friendship. A friendship that, perhaps, was destined to become something more. End of chapter. Esta parte no importa, es solo para que la nos portulana de 6
Pequeños sueños por comenzar, promesas que no van a acabar. Tu vestido brillando al sol, y en tus ojos veo mi razón. Suenan campanas dentro de mí, diciendo no lo dejes ir. Di que sí para siempre, amor, que este momento se vuelva a los dos. Risas, lágrimas, lo que vendrá, juntos nada nos va a parar. Di que sí, sin dudar, que el destino nos quiso juntar. Toma mi mano una vez más y casémonos sin mirar atrás. Veo en tus ojos la eternidad. Ya no hay dudas, solo verdad. Un anillo y un sí acepto. Y comienza nuestro universo. Dime sí. Di que sí para siempre, amor, que escuche el mundo este gran sí los dos, prometiendo lo que seré, que este amor ya encontró su razón. Desde hoy hasta el final seremos uno en la eternidad.
Tudo acontecer, hoje a noite é pra gastar tudo que a gente quiser. Bebe, bebe, depois desce, gira e não esquece, gira, gira, não esquece. Bebe, depois desce no grave, o cu enlouquece.